สำหรับนะคะในเซสชันถัดไปนะคะเดี๋ยวเราจะมารับฟังหัวข้อที่น่าสนใจนะคะจากทางด้านของ I/O Foundation กันค่ะ So upcoming next ladies and gentlemen we will continue to the next interesting topic which I would like to once again invite anyone all of our visitors and exhibitors to come to join us for this fantastic session. The next speaker are going to talk about from protocols to protection, how standards secure your digital world. Please welcome founder and CEO of the I/O Foundation. Could you please give a big round of applause to welcome Mr. John Gehan, please.
Hi everyone, thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Today I would like to talk to you about protocols, standards, and their importance in cybersecurity and how most of the time cybersecurity practitioners don't pay attention to this. My name is, as told, Jean-François Queralt. I'm the founder of an organization called the I/O Foundation. We are an NGO. The agenda is going to be quite straightforward. I don't have that much time, and I try to get as detailed as possible. My organization is essentially a nonprofit, as I was mentioning. We dedicate our time into what's called data-centric digital rights, which is essentially an attempt to make sure that technology doesn't do certain things by design, so that the final user doesn't have to be concerned, for instance, as to whether their data is being stolen or what is being done with it, which at the moment is kind of a big problem. Now, what are SDOs? It would be cool to see if anyone has ever heard the term SDO before. It stands for Standard Developing Organizations. They are essentially organizations that, for whatever reason, sometimes legacy, sometimes because of their mandate by governments or international organizations, issue policies, standards, protocols that are eventually going to be making it their way into the industry. So you can think about IPv6. IPv6 was invented by someone, and it was standardized by somebody, and that body made it public for everyone to adopt, and then companies decided whether to adopt it or not. PKI was also invented by someone. There was a number of people sitting somewhere having a conversation, deciding to publish that. So all of those are organizations that will issue standards, protocols, policy that eventually will come to the tech sector. Now the reason is, so the question will be, okay, why should you care? It comes to you, it's already done, why would you want to bother? Well, there's a number of reasons. The most obvious one is regulatory compliance. A lot of times governments will enforce some of these protocols or some of these policies, and you will have to follow, and if you don't, you're in breach. But that's the sort of the obvious one, okay? Okay, I duplicated my slide there. I know, because it's interesting. The other reason would be that you inherit them. And what do I mean by that is, unless you've been participating in the crafting of those policies, of those standards, whatever form and shape they come into, you just have them on your table. So as a cybersecurity practitioner, you have a huge surface of attack that you don't have much control on. You just have to believe that the standard or the policy has been crafted in a proper way that is not going to be affecting you. But what happens if they decide to, for instance, change how IP architecture functions? What's the implication for you? You just learn that, and you just have to accept these new, I don't know, new IPv6 headers that just come into the market, and they're going to be implemented in your routers. Are they going to be the best solution for you? Are they going to come with side consequences that you were not expecting or you were not aware of? I actually argue that whoever gets to participate in standard processes, you get to know very well your technology. It's a very good advantage for you. Definitely going to push up, buff up your CV. But most importantly, if you're not in the room when those standards are being worked out, somebody else is. And that somebody else doesn't always have the best of intentions. So again, you might be inheriting or having to stand changes that you were not expecting at all, that you didn't know were coming through the pipeline, and well, you're already there. And I can tell you, I'm going to give some examples later of things that people didn't know were happening, and we sort of, when the asteroid passes, we just missed the mark and got saved by the last minute. We've had some of those cases. So there's a constellation of SDOs. There's hundreds of them. Different SDO has different legitimacy, or the legitimacy comes from different places. Some of them, like I said, are member state organized, and they have a lot of sway in terms of how they're going to be pushing things. Others are much more industry-driven. Most of them basically gain their legitimacy because they've been putting out specifications that are going to be that have been very valuable for the industry, and so they, sheer adoption is what makes their side on the on the market. So I would like to mention a few of them. The first one, anyone ever heard about the IETF? The Internet Engineering Task Force? That's an organization that essentially takes care of everything that has to do with the TCP/IP stack. All the modifications, new proposals, on anything that has to do with IP, TCP, UDP, QUIC, SCORN, whatever is coming up under the pipeline, that's under IETF. They also have a research side called the IRTF, as well as another sub-organization called the IEB. So the IRTF is Internet Research Task Force. They're basically looking into research, not necessarily issuing what's called requests for comments, which is what they produce. Their governance is by community. They don't have any specific, how to say, RFCs are put out and they become standards by sheer adoption. They're not pushing it, they don't have any specific power. There's a lot of corporations participating in the IETF. And by the way, the next IETF meeting is going to be in Bangkok in March. For whoever is around, I would definitely recommend participating. It's a very good opportunity. They come to Asia every 2 years, 2.5 years, because they have 3 meetings a year, and they go all over the planet. And they come to Asia every now and then. It's a very good opportunity to participate. The IAB is quite interesting because it stands for Internet Architecture Board. What they do is they try to synchronize work across different SDOs that are related with internet technologies. Also very interesting to follow them. Next one would be ICANN. ICANN is mostly known for domain name management, although in reality, they go way beyond. What they do is they manage unique identifiers on the internet, of which domains, of course, are one type. But how many of you ever heard that ICANN actually manages, at the origin, all the IP addresses of the world? That's not very well known. Most people also don't know that they handle all the communication ports. That's all done through what's called IANA, which is a kind of a component of ICANN. It's the easiest way to explain it. And so if you propose a new RFC on IETF and your new protocol will require a standardized port, you will have to submit a request to IANA to be able to standardize that port number. So port 80, HTTP, is handled by IANA. And they basically manage some MIME types, pretty much, last time I checked, 1,300 plus unique identifiers. So you can imagine the importance of ICANN and all the policy that it does. It doesn't do that much technically, although there's a bit of technology going on. That's mostly left to the IETF, but it does a lot of policy making. And to give you an example, until barely a few months ago, there was a little bit of an attempt to turn ICANN into a global content moderator. Those words should have scared everyone around here. So even though ICANN, in their bylaws, state very clearly that they stay away from content, there was an attempt to try to figure out a way to bypass that and turn ICANN into the ability to shut down domains based on content complaints. Not a cool thing to do. Next one, the ITU, the International Telecommunication Union. This is an organization under the UN. It is, to my knowledge, if not the I think it's the second oldest organization in the world, from 18 whatever, I can't remember the name. There is the organization that manages the river Rhine, which is older, predates that, but this is the second most old international organization ever. It used to be the International Telegraphic Union. And then they got into an agreement with the UN, and they become eventually the International Telecommunication Union. The ITU is separated into 3 sectors. They handle radio communication, telecommunication standards, and development. The one that you should be paying attention to is ITU-T, the telecommunication standards sector. Ideally, or what you would have expected, is that because of their origin, the ITU would just take care of layers 1 and 2 from the OSI model. In reality, at this moment, they're basically going all over the way up. So they're doing standardization on AI, on all types of security, cloud security, you name it. This is a place that you should definitely be paying attention to. Now, how many of you have ever heard about new IP? New IP. After this talk, I would recommend you to go and Google it, because what I'm going to tell you right now is likely going to sound like a conspiracy theory. Unluckily, it isn't. So new IP was an attempt, was a proposal that was submitted to the ITU-T to essentially re-architect the whole internet back in 2018, 2019. Fortunately, it didn't go through. However, if it had ever gone through, it would have meant basically things such as no more random routing. Really cool, huh? The ability to shut down people individually. Yeah, some very, very cool features, let's put it that way. And so all I'm trying to say is that those things are happening, and that the people who are participating in those environments don't always have the best of ideas. And if that would have ever gone through, and believe me, they're still trying, as in they have taken some concepts of new IP, chopped them in different ideas, and repackaged them in different solutions. So now it's not just one thing, is that, oh, you have this particular problem, I have a solution for you. It just incorporates a few elements of new IP, so that in the aggregate we have the same problem. And I've been mentioning to some of you that I see already in the public, check for semantic communications. And be seated when you are checking it, because you might get quite confused about what the hell is going on with that. It's very, very concerning. So the ITU also has regional telecommunication organizations. In the case of, by the way, I want to clarify, it's not the ITU that does wrong things. It's, because it's an open organization where member states and companies can do proposals, so it actually opens the door for those things to happen. And so new IP was stopped by members of the ITU because they could see the problems with it. Okay, so the problem is not the organization. The problem is monitoring what is being proposed as new proposals to be able to make sure that they don't go into dangerous directions. And so in Southeast Asia, so in Asia in general, you have Asia Pacific. You have the Asia Pacific Telecommunity that is here based as well in Bangkok. And so the regional preparation process and so forth are handled by them. We had yesterday a panel with someone from APT, with really cool panel on standardization as well. So my recommendation is, when you go back home, when you go back to your office, try to analyze a little bit your tech stack and try to figure out what are the protocols and what are the standards that you are subjected to, and what is coming down the pipeline that might be affecting you. It's very much an advice that I would give. I know this is not the most riveting stuff. I know that it's not easy to actually participate in standardization process. It's long, it's tedious. Legend goes that you can get your PhD before you get an RFC passed in IETF. Okay, 5 years to be able to move things in ICANN as well. It's very long, it's intricated. Legend also says that it takes you about 3 years before you know how to participate in ICANN. And one of the reasons is because most of the time they don't speak English, they speak ICANNese. I mean, their acronym page is a dictionary on itself, okay? But again, it cannot become this wizardy environment where people cannot participate, right the opposite. And I would even say one step beyond, with some changes that we're having right now in the model of governance of some places, yeah, I do have a few time, I can actually do that interjection. So anyone has heard about internet governance? Okay, no shame, it's normal. Internet governance is this concept about how do we govern the internet. And the UN came up with it. There was a whole process, what's called the WISES, the World Summit of Information Society, and that happened 20 years ago, and they decided one of the recommendations, we need to have a place where internet governance can be discussed, and they came up with these things called the Internet Governance Forum, the IGF. The IGF has events locally, regionally, but also internationally, and the international one happens once a year, typically by the end of the year. And the model that they use is pretty much the same model as ICANN. It's a multi-stakeholder model. Everyone has some type of community that represents, you know, from the ISPs to the technical community to the policymakers, governments, whatever. And everyone just basically can sit there for as long as you do the work, you are not stopped from participating. Now, the UN has had this genius idea of having a different thing called the Global Digital Compact, which is steering some concerns in civil society and other places, whereby there seemed to be a shift into where the conversations for internet governance, and please take those words literally, internet governance. Remember that countries do have sovereignty still, but for some reason, that's flying. And they are moving the model from a multi-stakeholder one to a tripartite model. That would be governments, corporations, and civil society. And the first thing that I ask myself is, where's the technical community? Nowhere to be seen. So I would actually be concerned because they are basically putting you aside and making decisions that are going to be affecting how technology is built, how it is experienced, but they're not necessarily asking the opinion of the technologists. So again, this is coming to you. The regulations will fall on your shoulders eventually. And if they are not good regulations, you're not going to be very happy about it. So yeah, check your tech stack, try to figure it out. Look what would be the organizations where, you know, the future of that tech stack may come from. And I would like to part with this, possibly the best nerd joke I ever heard in my life, which pretty much defines the importance of protocols. If you make sure that protocols and standards do not do certain things by design, if you make sure that they are properly crafted, you're already avoiding a lot of problems down the line. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much once again. Thank you for your presentation, and for those who would like to contact him in person, please feel free to do so. And we do also have another QR code for the conference survey. Please just take a few minutes of yours, then we will get the valuable feedback from you. Thank you very much in advance. สำหรับในเซสชันเมื่อสักครู่นี้นะคะทางด้านของ DIO Foundation นะคะก็ได้พูดถึงเรื่องของมาตรฐานนะคะสู่การป้องกันนะคะเราที่จะทำยังไงที่จะสามารถทำให้นะคะป้องกันแล้วก็รักษาโรคดิจิทัลของเราเอาไว้ได้นะคะก็จะเป็นเรื่องของความสำคัญในมาตรฐานความปลอดภัยทางไซเบอร์นะคะที่จะช่วยลดในเรื่องของความเสี่ยงแล้วก็สามารถการันตีรับประกันนะคะสำหรับการทำงานร่วมกันได้นะคะเป็นแบบวงกว้างพอไปถึงแล้วผลกระทบที่เกิดขึ้นนะคะเราจะได้รู้ว่าสำหรับการละเมิดความปลอดภัยที่จะเกิดขึ้นนะคะกับการละเลยมาตรฐานเนี่ยเป็นอย่างไรมีโปรโตคอลมีนะกฎอย่างไรบ้างรวมไปถึงแล้ว นะคะก็สำหรับความร่วมมือนะคะต่างๆนะคะทางด้านของการร่วมมือในการภาคอุตสาหกรรมต่างๆ ที่จะมาพัฒนาแล้วก็ปฏิบัติตามกฎมาตรฐานก็ถือว่าเป็นอีกหนึ่งส่วนที่มีความสำคัญเช่นเดียวกันนะคะส่วนในเซสชันถัดไปนะคะเดี๋ยวเราจะมาเริ่มต้นในช่วงเวลา 14 นาฬิกาตรงหรือว่าบ่าย 2 โมงนะคะก็จะเป็นเรื่องของ multi faceted defense นะคะก็เดี๋ยวเราจะได้มาฟังจากทางด้านของวิทยากรท่านต่อไปซึ่งตอนนี้นะคะท่านไหนที่สนใจเรียนเชิญนะคะที่บริเวณด้านหน้าเวทีได้เลยนะคะซึ่งเซสชันถัดไปกำลังจะเริ่มต้นนะคะในช่วงเวลา 14 นาฬิกาหรือว่าบ่าย 2 โมงตรงนั่นเองค่ะSo we will come back shortly for the next session, which is are going to start at 2 p.m. Just we have another 15 minutes to go. So right now, if any one of you are interested to come to join us, please feel free. You are all invited for the second and the last day of CyberSec Asia and Thailand International Cyber Week 2024. Again, we still have many available seats and you can enjoy the rest of the afternoon with us right here at Tech Stage. Thank you very much. We will come back shortly for the next topic. ขอบคุณค่ะ